Hello, folks. Welcome back. Chris Wyatt Reports. This is Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Things are beginning to heat up for the African National Congress over its deployment of troops as part of a SADC, Southern African Development Community mission, to the Democratic Republic of Congo. This following the death of 14 soldiers from the South African National Defense Force. Government today rebuffed opposition calls for an immediate withdrawal of South African forces from the DRC. Most of South Africa's political parties in parliament have demanded the swift return of South African troops, but Defense Minister Angie Motshekga defended the deployment as part of South Africa's commitment to peace and stability. Now, during a Monday parliamentary debate called by the Democratic Alliance to discuss the deaths of those soldiers, the Democratic Alliance, the Economic Freedom Fighters, Action SA, UDM, BOSA, and the African Transformation Movement all called for an immediate or swift return of the estimated 2,000 SANDF soldiers who remain in Goma. They were not part of a well-planned peacekeeping mission. They were thrown into battle ill-equipped, underfunded, and without critical support in one of the world's longest-running and most brutal conflicts. They fought alongside the DRC armed forces against the well-trained, well-equipped M23 rebels, yet their own government sent them into war unprepared. These comments coming from the Democratic Alliance's defense spokesman, Chris Wyatt. Now, most of the South African National Defense soldiers who died in the DRC were part of the Southern African Development Community's mission to the DRC or the SAMIDRC. A few others were part of the United Nations mission there, MONUSCO. Rise Mzansi leader Songezi Ziba said the government cannot keep sending defense force personnel with knives to a gunfight. The words members of this House say calling the dead sons and husbands to heartbroken mothers and wives means zero if this parliament will this year vote for a budget that amounts to peanuts. Well said. Build One SA leader Musi Maimane called for an immediate withdrawal of troops. Now, for her part, the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, Angie Motshekga, justified the mission, saying that they were sent into Eastern DRC to uphold one of the pillars of South Africa's foreign policy, namely, to contribute to the creation of peace and stability in Africa and the world. Okay. She also noted correctly that South Africa has been involved in trying to bring peace and stability to the DRC since 1997. That's nearly 30 years. How's that peace and stability going in the DRC there, Angie? Not working out very well. Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronnie Lamola, agreed, telling Parliament South Africa as part of the continent cannot be a bystander, as insecurity anywhere in the continent is an insecurity on our shores. That, my friends, sounds suspiciously like a Monroe Doctrine. Is South Africa a neo-colonial regional hegemon in Africa? Economic Freedom Fighters leader Julius Malema told Parliament that the reckless deployment of troops had been presented as a peacekeeping effort. In truth, the SANDF soldiers were engaged in direct combat, fighting against the highly armed and strategically superior M23 rebels who are supported by the reckless president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. Malema's words, not mine. And actually, this is a false statement. It is public knowledge that Tshisekedi, the president of the DRC, approved the SADC mission specifically because, unlike the East African mission that it replaced, the SADC troops would have a mandate for offensive operations. If we knew that here in Appalachia, in Pennsylvania, how is it that Juju didn't know about it in Cape Town? Surely he was aware of it as a member of parliament. But not every party wants the SANDF to withdraw from the Congo. Some of them want to stay there. Deputy Social Development Minister Genif Hendricks, who's the leader of Al Jamaa, claimed that South Africa has the best military commanders on the continent. We have the best Minister of Defense to keep our country safe. Try her. We have the best commanders. Try them. What in the world is Hendricks drinking? Should he be drinking alcohol? I mean, isn't that forbidden in Islam? Now, Minister 30% has no military background, and she's completely lost in this job, out of her element. Botswana, Angola, Rwanda, Nigeria, Ghana, Algeria, Morocco, Egypt all have far better and more effective general officers. Most of them don't even need to buy 2 airplane tickets to sit on a flight. The Inkatha Freedom Party's member of Parliament Russell Sebekula said that South Africa had to help the African Union with its mission to silence the guns in Africa. He warned against an abrupt and uncoordinated withdrawal of SANDF soldiers in the absence of a lasting peace agreement. Well, silence the guns is a nice bumper sticker, so is 95, 95, 95 by 2030, neither of which will be achieved in Africa. You won't silence the guns until you stop letting the Chinese ship AK-47 replicas into Africa and fueling the conflicts. Patriotic Alliance leader and Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Gate McKenzie, got a bit carried away with his pro-war jingoism. McKenzie said South Africa had been humiliated, and we must teach people when you kill a South African, there's consequences. Now, if only that were the case back home in South Africa, where over 21,000 South Africans are murdered each year. Almost none of the killers brought to justice by an inept policing service and in a useless criminal justice system. Now, Gabe McKenzie called for military conscription for South Africa and that they should go and teach M23 a lesson. Let us go and kill those that killed our soldiers. Folks, his statement is just bluster. At 0.7% of GDP for national defense, the South African National Defense Force cannot handle conscripts. It can't handle its missions. 0.7% of GDP for national defense. It's not a joke. It's sick. McKenzie continued saying, I'll be the first to join the battalion to go and fight. Okay. Can I watch, Gaten? Now, withdrawing South African troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo would be worse than surrendering, said Ronnie Lamola. Let's see. M23 has captured Goma and controls nearly the entire region. Neither of those things were true when SADC first deployed troops that arrived there in December 2023. So what exactly is the mission accomplishing, Ronnie? Now, according to Lamola, conflicts on the continent arise over the fight for access to mineral resources. Ladies and gentlemen, that's coffee table analysis. It's juvenile, it's incomplete, and it's also not accurate. While minerals are an excuse, the proximate cause of these conflicts is a lack of governance or sovereign control. Minerals are just a consequence, not the proximate cause. If the answer were as simple as minerals being the reason for conflict, Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa would all be in the middle of a civil war right now, wouldn't they? As a food fight over minerals would be taking place. Ladies and gentlemen, South Africa has a long history of sticking its nose into other countries' internal affairs. Ironically, something that the ANC is currently falsely accusing Donald Trump of doing by ending free handouts to South Africa. South Africa stuck its nose into the affairs of Lesotho at Operation Boleas twice in the 1990s, multiple deployments, at least 3 of them for peacekeeping to Comoros. They've also stuck their nose in Burundi with peacekeeping and VIP protection units, stayed there forever. They've been in the DRC repeatedly since 1997. They've also stuck their nose in the Central African Republic, where 15 SANDF soldiers were killed back there several years ago. And they've been involved in United Nations missions in Ethiopia and Eritrea, among other places, as well as Mozambique, Cabo Delgado province. Yet, South Africa is noticeably absent in Darfur, throughout Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mauritania. They're not present in any of these conflicts. Why do they selectively choose which conflicts they're part of? It kind of reminds me of their selective umbrage about genocide in Gaza, but not in Myanmar, China, Darfur. Anyway, folks, the ANC is under pressure, but it will come to nothing. Nothing will come of this. Things will continue to march. The Democratic Alliance, their partner in this government of national unity, which allows them to rule, will not back out over this. They'll just make a lot of noise. If the Democratic Alliance didn't take a stand against expropriation without compensation, they sure as hell aren't going to take a stand over the National Defense Force that's been starved of funds for the entire time that the DA has been in government. When have they pushed for more funds for this military? When has the EFF pushed more funds? Never. And there you have it, folks. I feel bad for soldiers of the South African military. No one should suffer the fate that they've gone through, being disregarded, underfunded, and abused by their government. What say you, South Africa? Cheers.